Welcome back to the Post Peak podcast. This is episode 14, and today we are finding ourselves in the middle of the school summer holidays. We're in, as everyone knows, a very dry, sunny period. It's probably the best summer that I remember since like 2018, I would say. But obviously, it's very dry out there. We've now got a hosepipe ban, but I've found an interesting way around that, which I'll talk about in a bit. How are you, Jack? What are you up to?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, just survived the burnout season of July. So my wife and I always call July burnout month because of school holiday starts and end of school term and sports days and fairs and just family stuff. And then our end of year at work is coupled with that. So yeah, July we always find like just mega busy nonstop. But yeah, we're here. We're start of August. It's very dry. And actually, I'm very interested to hear about this hosepipe trip because, again, as usual, I've not washed my car for about 2 weeks and it's covered in dust. And I've not driven it a lot, but it's just the atmosphere and the dust and the kind of crap that sits on top of it. So I was going to wash it last weekend, but because of the hosepipe ban, you need to share this hack with us. So yeah, what have you found?
So last year when there was a hosepipe ban, I was taking my car to the local jet wash, and it was always a bit of a faff because I was like having to take a manual foam pump spray, foam that, then jet wash it, then move the car out of the bay, do a 2 bucket wash, move it back on the bay to then wash it off again. And always people were like showing up at the wrong time, and then the car was just sitting there with shampoo on it that was drying, etc. And it was just a bit of a faff. And then I can't remember who shared it. Someone shared this product with me from Karcher. So I use a Karcher pressure washer, a K5, and basically Karcher offer an accessory that is a suction pump, meaning that the pressure washer runs from a bucket of water rather than from the hose. So I bought one. It was 22 quid. I bought it on Amazon. I have a feeling that Amazon are now out of stock until September, but other retailers may be available. And I tried it out for the first time on the weekend. My wife wasn't particularly enamored by it because her view was all the neighbors are just going to think that you're you're running a pressure washer, and you're probably using a hose. And I think people have the view that pressure washers use loads of water because obviously they're absolutely smashing out water at high pressure, but realistically they don't use that much water. It just looks like they are. So anyway, I set the product up. I made sure that the bucket and the suction hose was like really visible on the driveway, because where I live, I get quite a lot of like, I live in like a new build development, and there's a lot of cars driving back and forth through the development. And I was getting some funny looks for sure. I had two of my neighbors like come around and be like, "Are you allowed to be washing, using a pressure washer?" And I was like, "Look, I'm not using the hose." Um, so yeah, perception is still a bit of an issue, but to be honest, it's so much easier than going to the pressure washer. So yeah, as long as you don't let the water in the bucket get so low that you then get an airlock in the suction hose, it works exactly the same as if you're plugged into a hose. But it does take a bit more time because you have to top up the bucket, etc. I think I used 4 large buckets to wash 2 cars, which really isn't that
That's
bad.
not bad. That's not bad.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I now have a workaround, and I'm going to be continuing to wash the cars at home, despite raised eyebrows from my neighbours.
Start a little car wash there. I was going to say you could come and do mine because yeah, I'm too afraid to even attempt something like that because we've got too many window twitchers along where I live.
Yeah,
So they'd all come out with their pitchforks.
I mean I do too, but I think there just comes a point where if you're very much. I think one of my neighbours said, I think this is what you would call a technicality. Um,
Love it.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean
just worried
that's
that
good
I
enough for
yeah,
me. That's good enough for me.
and like you, I don't want to take it to. I mean, I don't believe in the scratch and shine car washes,
Yeah,
and the jet hose. That I was actually looking up local jet hose garages that provided that,
yeah,
like you. But then it's the faff of doing it. You have to come out the bay, then clean and back
yeah,
in, out.
yeah,
So you're probably paying for like 3 washes at least
yeah.
just to
Yeah,
wash one car,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then it could become quite faffy and expensive, and you might then cause a load of chaos if it's on a busy part of the day. So yeah, it's interesting you say that. Good little hack. Probably not for me, but if I can come round and borrow your hose in your bucket, then I might have to do that at some point.
yeah.
But what else have you been up to? I know you've had quite a busy couple of weeks in the car world. So what else have you done around, I guess, Porsche and 911?
Yeah, recording world wise is probably because we did the last episode with Mark. We haven't really caught up on general car stuff, so it's been probably even a month since we spoke. But 2 or 3 weeks back, I had a really good day out in the 911. So I went to the JZM Cars and Coffee event on a Sunday morning, middle of July, and JZM. I haven't been there before, but their stock is absolutely unreal. They had two identical 911Rs, white with green stripes, which is the spec that I would go for. One had black wheels, one had not black, if I remember correctly. Um, and they had just amazing stock. They also had a really cool dark green manual Gallardo Spider, so dark green over cream leather, and I've never seen one in that spec before. It just looked absolutely mega and was really sort of peak summer car for me, which we'll come back to at the end of this episode because we're going to talk peak summer car. So I went to that, and they were part of the reason why they held it was they were raising funds for the MND charity. So they were doing a raffle to win a really nice frame picture of a Singer Turbo DLS, which was a one of one commission specifically for that charity event. So MND is actually a charity that's really close to my heart. Sadly, I lost my father-in-law last year after a long battle to MND. So it was something that I was keen to support, and my wife was keen to support. So I bought my tickets. I think I bought 20 quid's worth. And I actually had to leave the event early because I went to a track day, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the next morning, I got a call from JZM saying that I'd won the auction, which was amazing. And they knew about. I mentioned to them at the time that obviously what happened to my father-in-law last year, and they were like, "It's kind of spooky, but it's kind of really nice that you've ended up winning it, having been the person that entered the raffle that had actually been personally affected by MND." So I like to think my father-in-law had a small hand in me winning that prize, and it's already up on my in my office on my wall. So yeah, that was really really nice. I'll put a picture up of the photo. um, so yeah, that was great. Also, the cars that showed up at JZM were amazing. We had Carrera GTs, we had a brand new kind of crazy spec Lamborghini Revuelto. It was like purple over in the inside was lime green, so it was like a Jack Nicholson spec. Um, there was just loads of amazing cars. There was even like I didn't know these existed, but there was like a I don't know what era it was, 30s, 40s, 50s, something like that. Ferrari fire truck. Did you ever know that Ferrari made a fire
Wow.
truck? I mean,
No, I didn't. I've seen pictures of these kind of cars that used to go to like the 30s, 40s F1 event, or the lorries that used to, and they
yeah,
look stunning. But I'd guess it's a similar kind of look to something like that. Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
What was
So
that used for? Was that an F1 thing, or was that a part of a pit crew, or
I have
what
no
was the?
idea. I have no idea, but
Wow.
it was drawing a lot of attention when we were there. So anyway, had a great morning. Obviously, the icing on the cake was winning that picture for various sentimental reasons for me. Um, so really enjoyed that, and I'll hopefully go to the future JZM Cars and Coffee because yeah, it was just nice to go to a meet that also wasn't all Porsches. Like there was a mix of different cars there. So
They've got a
um,
very, very nice GT2 997 for sale. I looked on the website the other day,
yeah,
and it's like the kind of, I guess it's a GT silver, but it's got all the grey accents and the carbon on it as well. And I couldn't believe the price of those now. I think they're asking about 650 grand roughly for that
yeah, I
car.
saw it. Yeah,
They are really creeping, but what a thing! When I saw that's probably out of a lot of the stock, and they've got some amazing stock. They gave me some really good inspiration for things I wanted to potentially do to my 991, which was almost like that kind of that the sort of fast road look for the kind of, I guess, the way they make the cars kind of look, where they're kind of GT stealth kind of spec and stuff. But
Yeah,
that GT2 was absolutely stunning. But I just can't believe the price of those. They're increasing. They're kind of following the Carrera GT values, I think, at the moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's what we were talking about a month ago or so. Like the really special, naturally aspirated GT manual products. Like they're just loopy in value. Anyway, so after the JZM event, straight from there, I drove with a couple of other guys over to Bicester Motion, and hosted by Flat Six FM Porsche Group. We had a mini track day on the small Bicester track. So that was really fun. As soon as I got there, there was a Carrera GT, a second Carrera GT of the day, that was doing some parade laps on the track on its own, which was super cool to see an actual Carrera GT kind of in action in front of only like 30 other people. Apparently, the car had only done 1,500 miles since new, and it was the original owner that was driving it, and he'd obviously driven it there, um, and done some like 6 or 7 laps on track. So that was super cool. And then did the track day for the afternoon. So first time that I'd sort of had the 911 on track. Done a bit of track driving in the past, including a couple of Nürburgring trips that we should talk about on a future podcast. Um, but the 911, what the only thing was, the track at Bicester is quite small, so you can only you can only eke out so much kind of performance. But it was still fun to drive it, in a different environment. I really noticed the weight balance difference versus the track experiences I've had in the past, which have all been in BMWs. But yeah, the car went really well. I enjoyed it. People kept sort of talking to me in the pits, saying like the car looked really nice on track and it sounded amazing, because it was obviously a lot of the more modern stuff there, where the noise is a lot more muted, whereas my car is for a standard exhaust is like really loud, and but more importantly, the tone of that car sounds amazing. So yeah, it was a really nice afternoon all round. Will I do lots more track work in the 911? Probably not, for various reasons. I have quite a lot of mechanical sympathy. I like driving the cars, but I don't like absolutely hammering the brakes, getting the tires all hot, having tire deg, brake deg, etc. So for me, I'm much more of a road trip guy, than I am kind of a track junkie. I've done it, but I wouldn't want to be doing it in a car that for me is, relatively expensive. I feel like if I would want to do track driving in the future, I'd rather be doing that in a cheaper car that's properly track prepped, rather than driving a road car on track. So yeah,
Nice.
that was an amazing day. Feels like quite a long time ago now, 2 or 3 weeks ago. One thing that I did have, and I think I touched on this in a previous pod, but I've had some issues with one of the exhaust tips on the 911, where they have, I guess, steel clamps on the tips, and basically over time they've failed, corroded, etc. And I kept having the left exhaust tip basically hang off and just sit like completely wonky on the car. Um, I actually had that problem before I went to Le Mans. I had a local garage do a temporary fix for me, but then that temporary fix failed. So I've now got new titanium clamps on the exhaust, and hopefully it's going to be much more secure than it was. I did get JZM to price me up some new tips for the car, because I was going to consider picking up the picture and getting brand new tips fitted at the same time. And they quoted me £2,250 for new exhaust tips for the car. So we're not talking
Wow.
about a back
Full
box. We're not
system.
talking about the system. We're just talking about the metal tips
Wow.
that sit on the top of the exhaust. £2,200 from Porsche. So that was a no go. And but luckily my local garage were able to sort me out with some clamps. So hopefully that issue is now solved. But yeah,
Nice.
that's Porsche ownership for you. And then I have one other thing before we move on to your updates, which is, regular listeners will know that I run a Jaguar XF, 2009 Jaguar XF is my third car, and I've been I've been seeing more and more of these cars on the road, not Jaguar XS, but the car that I went to see, and my interest has just been piqued. I run a limited company myself, and there are quite a lot of tax incentives for getting EVs. And I'm not really an EV guy, but I think there are more products now coming to the market that are a bit more appealing for petrol heads. And the Alpine A290 is a car that a few friends in my local car group have got, and they've got it similarly through their business as a kind of daily runner. And I spoke to them about it, and they said, I really like the car, it's fun, etc. So on the other day, I went to the Alpine dealership in Gerrards Cross, and I met a really nice guy there called Dan, who showed me around the car, gave me a test drive, etc. And I really liked it. Actually, it was great. Uh, the um, the steering and the braking in particular were excellent. The car comes on the new Michelin Pilot Sport 5Ss or S5s. And I took it for a little test drive, and I did really enjoy it. I was hoping that it might be a little bit quicker because I think in my head I've always thought EVs are ridiculously fast, but I think that's when you're looking at Teslas and Taycans and stuff like that. Whereas this car runs about 220 horsepower in the GTS variant, which is the one that I drove. And I wouldn't say I would want it any slower than what it was, but it was quite fun being front wheel drive and it torque steering, etc. Um, so I haven't made a decision on it yet. There was a couple of negatives for me, which was the space in the back was really, really poor. And even though my kids are quite small, like I couldn't even sit in the back of the car with my seat in my seating position. I couldn't get my feet like physically between the footwell and where the front seat was. So it was almost like worse in a way than in my 911, which is crazy for a car that is, a hatchback. So that would be a bit of a concern. And then also the monthly figures came out higher than what I was expecting. So it's really complex when you're running something through a business. You have to run so many scenarios of like, oh, I get this tax break and it's going through the business, and then who pays for the charging, and am I better off than I am just continuing to run the Jag? To be honest, since I drove it, I haven't really had the time to fully crunch the numbers. So the jury's still out, but at the moment, the Jag continues to kind of run well. It does need a service and an MOT. Um, so yeah, I haven't made my mind up yet, but I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed the EV driving, but the car did feel quite big, and I think even though they've managed to get the seat position very low, the way that the electric cars are configured with the battery underneath the car, you inevitably sit higher than you would in the equivalent petrol car. So I felt like I was sitting quite high.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say because I mean, I used to have one of my favorite cars I've ever owned was a John Cooper Works Mini, an R56, so
Mhm.
the turbocharged version,
Yep.
which had a limited slip diff at the front, so slightly upgraded from the standard Cooper S and stuff. But I had so much fun in that car. I did track days on that, took that to the Nurburgring. We had a bit of an accident there, which we can talk about in another pod as well, because it'd be good to go
Yeah.
into the pros and cons of what you sign up for when you drive on the Nurburgring. But it was that I think out of the box, I think they come with about 210 brake horsepower, the Cooper Works, John Cooper Works
Yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
and that was relatively light. I mean, that was a long time ago. It's nearly 15, 16 years ago since I've owned that car. But that felt really, really nippy, really light, a lot of fun.
Mm,
You could get lift off oversteer in that.
mm,
It was obviously completely front wheel drive, but with the LSD, it was it gripped. It really gripped. It torque steered a lot less than a Cooper S that I had previous to that. And I just thought even now I look at them and I think, God, they're good value for money now.
yeah.
But yeah, what did it feel like a heavy car, or did it feel like you could throw it around and have a bit of fun in it? Because I think we
Um,
want those kind of. I wouldn't mind an EV if you had that sort of hot hatch feel, and I know that some of the Hyundais that have come out recently, they look quite appealing because they've gone down that kind of hot hatch
yeah.
in that hot hatch market.
It. I think they run about 1450 kilos, so they're not heavy by an EV
Mm,
standard. They've done well there. I think it was more. It felt quite big, and I felt like I was sitting up quite high. And the other thing is the windscreen in the car is very sort of upright. So I did versus because I had a Mini like you did as well. I had a Mini Cooper S 2010 with the turbocharged engine, and that was always really, really good fun to drive. And this was fun, but not quite as fun. The steering was brilliant, and I was absolutely gobsmacked by the braking. The braking was unreal, um, but yeah, it wasn't setting me alight like that Mini that I had all those years ago
Mm,
was. And maybe that's an age thing and an experience thing, etc. But the car just feels, relatively big, and you're sitting up high, which are two things that I wasn't mad on. So then it's a case of like I didn't come away from that dealership, for example, feeling like I've got to have one of these. So then it's a question of, does it financially make sense? It's probably a better use case for what I need that car to do if the back was a bit bigger so that the kids could sit comfortably. One of the great things about the XF is it has so much rear leg room that the kids aren't cramped in, they're not kicking your seat, they're comfortable. My daughter likes it when I put the passenger seat forward and we give her the VIP treatment and she can fully, stretch out. You would never be able to do that in that car because the back is just so small. So yeah, I don't know. It was fun to go and experience it, but I think right now on balance, it's probably a no for me. Maybe wait
mm.
to see what happens and see if something else comes out that fits the need a bit better.
They're good looking though. I have to give them that. They look the part. I think in terms of EV market and what's available right now, and in that price point, that price range for the type of car, I do think that they are leading the way in terms of design language, the way they look. So yeah, I suppose I'd be tempted, but yeah, interesting feedback, and maybe they'll make some improvements with a more sportier model as they start to evolve.
Yeah,
Who
yeah, they've
knows? Wouldn't be
discontinued the
surprised.
A110 now, so it'll be interesting to
Mm.
see what comes in and replaces that in time. Anyway, what have you been up to the last month or so? Anything interesting to report? Any new cars on the horizon?
Yeah, I'll rattle through a few things. I'll keep it brief because there's not been a huge amount like you, but I guess still toying with the 997 sorry 91 yeah 991 991.2. So kind of that genre of Porsche at the moment. And I did actually go down to Ashgood, um, the other side of Windsor, near Slough, that type of area. And I mean, they had an amazing collection. I met the owner there, really nice guy, really interesting setup. What was disappointing though was that I went to view a 997.2. Um, you know, it was a Carrera S, really well looked after, amazing history. I think the last 10 years it only done an average of about 1,000 miles a year, and had been fully serviced by Porsche for the last the whole of its life, and it'd
Yeah,
only done 60,000 miles. So it was a really really clean example. So they did have some immaculate stock down there. It's definitely somewhere I would go and explore and consider, and go and have a chat with the guys there. The disappointing side of things is that I just didn't get a follow up or a phone call back. I left all my details, told them what I was looking for. I think you told me before anybody else did that car had almost been removed from the website the day after I viewed it. So, and then just
yeah,
didn't get a follow up or a phone call back. So slightly disappointed with customer service. However, I would still be tempted to go down and try again, because I do think they had some great stock there and they know what they're doing in the Porsche world as well. So that was interesting. I did also discover a 991.2 Carrera T, pretty much identical to the one I used to have, which is up on the market. So I ran some numbers on it. And what was really interesting is, I think from a funding perspective, and I appreciate we covered this on a previous episode with Mark, was that the balloons I'm seeing from the funders seem to be a lot more conservative now. If we were looking at this kind of HP, the kind of the balloon option, the kind of,
HP plus balloon. Yeah,
yeah, and I think when I owned it, I had the same agreement on my last Carrera T a few years back, and the balloon was really good, which meant that the monthlies were very low, which meant it was almost an absolute no brainer. I didn't think I could afford that car at the time when I
mm,
went to buy it, and I was so surprised about how I guess cost effective it became. And then on top of that, the running costs and everything else meant that I could get in a car twice the value I thought I could afford, And that's why I went for it. So I thought I just naively assumed that we could get a similar price point on a car of a similar value of a similar age. But I think what's happened is, maybe the market or the lenders are becoming a bit, they're tightening their belts a little bit, that they don't maybe want to take as much risk exposure, and so those balloons are a lot less than what they were a couple of years ago, even despite the interest rates being the same. So
Mm,
the repayment on that car would be another £350 more a month than I was previously paying on it, which almost sort of ruled it out for the time being.
mm,
So as much as I'd like to get back into one at some point, and I think it's still the longer term plan, I think in the next year or two it's kind of off the cards of other things that I've got going on at the moment. But 997.2 is still in the right sort of price range, but equally still got that itch to get back into an E92 at the moment, just because I think they're great cars. And I've had a few messages from, actually, a message from someone that listens to this podcast that has got a black one, a manual, slightly older. He approached me and said, "Look, would you be interested? I want to get into the convertible variant. I don't, I'd rather have a convertible than a hardtop, which I thought was
mm,
interesting." And he's made me an offer, and I think he comes back to the UK this week. So I'll go and have another look at that car. And then equally, I've noticed that it might be the opportunity to buy my old one back. But again, you just need to calm me down, because I keep making these kind of crazy rash decisions on buying cars without putting too much thought into it. So they're all very emotive purchases at the moment. And then
mm,
on the flip side, I take the M5 out. I took it out this weekend. I hadn't been driven for about 2 weeks because just haven't had the time and been traveling with work and stuff. So, and actually, it's such a great car. It's just, I don't get that fizz from it. So I'm still trying to gel with the car. I think, I do like driving it. I find it extremely comfortable. It's multifaceted because I can take like the family out in it. It's a great cruiser. It is a very, very practical car, very reliable because it's not newer. So you don't have those kind of, I guess, modern classic ownership considerations you do with something slightly older. But it's not, the only thing it's not giving me is that real fizz that I got from both the Carrera T and the E92. So,
mm.
the jury's out still, and I still need to clean it. And I think, again, on a previous episode with your friend Chris from the detailing place in Beaconsfield,
Yeah.
I think you sort of almost fall back in love with a car when you clean it again. And I'm at that point where I haven't cleaned it for about 2 weeks because of the hose pipe ban. So I probably just need to do that. And then the final thing in terms of updates was just Q7. Boring stuff was I went to pick up a huge amount of furniture in it, which is great for that sort of stuff because the boot's so long. It's not so much the height of the car, it's the length of the car that I've noticed. So you can get
Mm,
like a full single bed in there, all sorts of good stuff. And on the way to pick up some furniture, it was just the other side of the M3, so kind of, what would that be, southwest of the M25, so just outside
yeah.
London. And halfway to picking up this bit of furniture, I met a Koenigsegg CCX at a crossroads, and I almost nearly crashed the car because I was like, "What? You never see things like that driving around."
Mm,
And realised actually there's a Koenigsegg dealership just around the corner from there. So I drove past the dealer. I didn't have enough time to pop in, unfortunately, but I will do that to discuss in another episode. But
mm,
outside they had a Singer as well. It was an early Singer. But probably one of the original looking ones by the looks of things. It was just sat outside the dealer in front of a Rolls Royce, and then in the window they had a few Koenigsegg's. So I was like, right, definitely going back there. That's on the map. But yeah,
mm.
seeing something like that in the wild driving around. It was a blue one. I think it's quite a famous one. I'll post a picture up as well. But that was really cool. And then we're just doing some car prep for a staycation trip, and I've got a service booked in on it, so I'll report back on how all that goes. But not a huge amount to update, but yeah, still on the hunt for a toy or a weekend car at the moment. But yeah, hopefully not going to make too many rash decisions. So James, keep me honest.
Yeah, I think my reflection on that is probably that cars like the M5 and the RS6 are really good cars for petrol heads as a daily if you're not worried about the running costs. If you're not worried about the petrol costs and all the other associated costs that come with it, it's like that is an awesome daily if you're a petrol head. Equally, if you're not a massive petrol head and you want a one car solution, it's also probably really awesome. But I think for people like us, certainly for me, I would rather have the car that I'm doing daily duties in be sort of comfortable, um, luxurious, but cheap to kind of run. Like the Jag that I have, the 4 grand Jag, um, and then the car that I want to go out and enjoy, that's fine being expensive because you're getting an amazing experience kind of when you're driving it, etc. But where that M5 or RS6 category falls short of me is like I don't want to be spending through the nose just to do daily activities, and I wonder
Mm.
whether that's sort of similar to what you're feeling when you're using that car.
Yeah, you know why? Because I think the real daily car is the Q7, and that's brilliant. You know, it's brilliant at ferrying the kids
Yeah.
around. I've driven it, for a couple of hours on the motorway. It's a great cruiser. I like the high up driving position, as we've discussed in previous
Mm.
episode, because I guess you can see a bit further down the road. You know, it's definitely not the sort of car you're going to take on a spirited drive, but from a day to day daily
Yeah.
with a big family, with a big, massive boot space and the high up driving position. I honestly think it's been very difficult to find anything that really excels that unless you really ramp up the budget and go
Yeah.
up, go to a different level. But I think as an all round car, that's brilliant, and I use that a lot to do the daily activity. I think when I jump in the M5, it's when the Q7 is not available, and again, it's I've used it a lot recently for errands, and I haven't really taken it on any spirited drives at all. And I want to, because I want to see what that would be like over a few hours of sort of
Yeah.
spirited driving. But I just haven't had the time to do that. So I think maybe we need to do that, and I can then report back
Make
on
a
a real honest. Was it as fun as anything else that I've had in that environment, or actually is it up? Do I still feel a bit numb? And to your point, do I need to go and find something that I can invest more money in, that will be my sort of weekend car, the car that I kind of jump at driving,
Yeah.
and then buy something a lot cheaper just to do the daily activities when the Q7 is not available?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Shall we move on to peak summer car? I've done a
Let's
little
do
bit
it.
of prep on this. We haven't done something like this for a little while, but I had a look the other day, and the brief was, what is peak summer car at 10 grand, 50 grand, and 100 grand, I think we said. Um, for me, I've never owned a convertible. I think, Jack, you said in one of the previous pods that one of your first cars was a convertible. I've never owned a convertible. My mum has had lots of them, so I've experienced convertibles as a kid, sitting in the back, etc. But I've never had one. I've never. I think I've maybe driven one once or twice, but not really. And for me, at the moment, peak summer car increasingly feels like a convertible. So all three of my choices are convertibles, actually. But I'll start with the 10 grand one. So the car that I've had a soft spot for a while, I think I've talked about it before, is the kind of 2012 to 2017 6 Series BMW. And I found a black convertible one this week on at 8,750 quid. It's the 640i, which is the one that I'm most interested in with the M55 engine. Again, for me, diesel uh, diesel convertibles just don't make any sense. But I think for £8,750, I'd be really tempted to jump at a car like that. Even like sell the Jag, spend another 4 grand, and get into something like that. I think would be really, really tempting. So that was the best one that was available for 10 grand at the moment. I think for me, I'd rather have a like a blue over cream or something like that spec. But I think those cars represent great value for under 10 grand as a summer car.
Given the weather at the moment, the last 3 months that we've experienced in the UK here, I think more and more convertible cars are becoming more appealing for me, just because you can actually use them now.
Yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
if you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I'd almost swear to you to say like I'd never own one. However, I did own one. I did own one for a very short period of time, because we're moving house, or buying our first house, and I bought a 20, I think it was a 20, no, no, a 1998 CLK
yeah.
It was a CLK 280, and I think I mentioned this before. You know, mechanically they were peak mechanical Mercedes engineering, because that thing ran. You know, you could run those for 500,000 miles, no issues, and it was everything else that was rusting away around it that was the problem in that car, and to the point where I gave up. Basically, yeah, my confidence. I lost confidence in putting the roof down because I thought I'd never be able to put it back up again. So,
Yeah,
for the last few months I had it, I ended up just keeping the roof up and not using it. But yeah, I do agree. I do like the idea of a convertible. So we're going to stay on the same theme. So my 10k car is a bit left field. Looking on classifieds, and I quite like. I've always wanted one. With a Honda 2000 S2000,
mm,
and you could pick up a fairly early one with, I would say, round about 100,000 miles, which again for a Japanese Honda of that era isn't terribly bad, because I know those engines were pretty well built. And I've always fancied just going one of those because of the VTEC, the fact that it doesn't really come alive until about 5,000 RPM.
yeah.
So yeah, that would be my 10k
I
summer
didn't.
car.
I wouldn't have thought you could still get ones for 10k to be honest, but maybe that's because I've always been looking at the kind of lower mileage Minter ones,
Oh
which are
yeah, and then the
now easy
facelift,
money, right?
yeah, the kind of later ones with the facelift, yeah, they're kind of probably touching the 20k mark for a nice one. But I'm
Yeah,
thinking early example, pre probably 2000, 1999, 2000, that kind of year.
yeah,
You can buy a fairly doggy one for about 10k, and I just thought, I could thrash around in that for a summer or two and then move it on.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's move on to 50 grand.
Yeah,
For me, 50 grand, the default choice is the cars that we were talking about earlier, 997.2 or 991.1 as a summer car. So I found a 991.1, was it Carrera S 2012, and it's in dark blue over cream. I've got a real big thing for dark blue over cream cars at the moment. It's in Bedfordshire with a blue roof, full cream slash tan interior, naturally aspirated engine, obviously very similar to my car, albeit without the power kit. And for 50 grand as a summer car, I think that would just be awesome. And you probably wouldn't lose very much money on that. The 991.1s are doing really well value wise at the moment. So yeah, that would be my choice at 50 grand for a summer car. Probably a bit
nice. Yeah,
predictable, but
I'm close. I'm very close to you actually on this one. This is interesting. So mine is a sort of 2010, 2011. Found a 2010 Porsche Boxster Spider, so the 987
okay.
manual. It'd have to be a manual, something like that. But maybe it's a bit faffy getting the roof up and down on those, because I appreciate it's not a button anymore. You have to manually. But I think that just adds to the character and the experience of that car. And I still think Spiders. I'm not a fan of the newer versions of the Boxster Spiders, if I'm being honest. I still like that variant out of all of them at the moment. That particular shape. So yeah, that would be it for me. And again, I've seen them. Again, if I go back 10 years ago, I know there's a guy I used to work with that used to have a white one, and I remember he paid probably late 20s, probably around the 30k mark for one. Now they're
Wow.
pushing 50k for a manual plus. If you're lucky, you might be able to get a PDK for about 40, 45. But they
Yeah.
are really starting to creep up now. So I think for me, something like that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What about the 100k mark?
100k, obviously the amount of choice that you have at 100k is pretty wide. I looked at a couple of different cars. Again, wanted to keep it convertible on the summer theme. And I was caught between two. Um, I nearly went for an R8 V10 manual. Um, there was one that was available at like 80 grand. But I actually prefer the look of the later V10 R8, and I think the Spider looks really, really good in that with the big kind of engine deck out the back. I prefer it in the second gen R8, but then they don't have the manual gearbox, so I didn't. That was a very close second, but the car that I went for was a 2015 Aston Martin Vanquish Volante. This one is in black over tan.
I was hoping you were going to say blue. Then I was going for. Oh, he's got the hat trick. Blue over tan,
Yeah, no, this one
black
was
over
black,
tan. Nice.
but I'll post a picture. I think the spec on this one is really, really classy. Black over tan. One of my old bosses at my first job had a Vanquish, and I still haven't met up with him in the car to be able to see and experience it. But I just think that Vanquish, particularly the back end of it, looked absolutely incredible. Obviously, the noise is insane with a 6 litre naturally aspirated V12. Um, yeah, for me, I think at 100 grand as a slightly left field choice, that's non Porsche, that's where I would go.
Mm. Yeah, my neighbour's got the R8 you were talking about. It's not a manual, but it is the Spider, and it's the early generation V10.
Mm,
And he's just put this incredible exhaust on it, which I think annoys my wife more than anything at about 7 o'clock in the morning when he decides to go to the gym or go to the golf. But yeah, it sounds unreal. And he's he was almost toying with what to do with his car about a year ago. I spoke to him about that, and I think he was even looking at like Californias or Ferraris, but he doubled down on that. He's done a lot of work to it since then, actually, and it looks incredible and
mm,
sounds insane with that V10 and the right exhaust on it.
yeah,
For me, my 100k car, and I'll be pushed to because I've seen a few, but they're moving now, so it's going to be difficult to find a good one for any change less than 100k now. There are a few on the market, and that would be a 355. I don't think I'd get the GTS, the Targa roof, for less than probably 120. But
mm,
I've seen a few spiders around the sort of 100k mark, and
mm,
355 for me has always been the poster car underneath the F40. So
yeah,
again, I don't know if we're going to catch those in time. I think they're going to keep appreciating. I think the 360s are starting to gain some momentum behind them. So people are starting to look at the 430s now,
yeah,
especially if you can find a manual.
yeah.
Which so I think for me it'd be something like that in that kind of category. But I did see a few spiders around the 100k mark, which I
In a
think would be
manual or an F1?
it. It'd have to be a manual.
So you
Yeah,
can get a manual Spider for 100, you think, just about?
yeah, I think so. But I don't think they'll be around for long. I think they're going to be pushing the 150s
Yeah.
plus in the next 3 to 4 years. That'd be a interesting place
There's an
to.
enthusiast owned one that I've seen at Bicester a couple of times, again in blue over tan, and I think it's like lowered. It's lowered on a different set of wheels, and like, yeah, it just looks the absolute nuts. Not that I would definitely, I probably wouldn't modify my own one, but I think fair play to this guy. His car looks insane. So yeah,
Nice.
cool choice. Cool choice. Okay, awesome. That's the summer peak summer cars. We will probably be taking a bit of a break in recording now because we've got various summer holiday activities coming up. But hopefully we will be back with you with another episode in September. So hope you have a great rest of the summer, and yeah, we'll be in touch again soon.
Enjoy. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.